Members of the House, please be seated.
Will the House come to order, Mr. Clerk?
Aloha and good afternoon. Today's invocation will be delivered by Representative Patrick Pihana Bronco. Will the members who wish to participate please rise?
Please be seated. Vilina mai kako. Recently, I was speaking with a wise colleague, and this representative mentioned this year is weird. We just don't know each other. We haven't been able to talk story, share more about ourselves, laugh together, and share about our ohana. So I'm going to take this opportunity to share with you a little bit about someone who had great influence on my life, my great-grandfather, Edward Pihana Jr. My papa was born on a birthing stone at Makena Beach and grew up on Ulupalakua Ranch on Maui. At age 13, he stowed away on a ship and came to Oahu and eventually joined the Merchant Marines. While in the Merchant Marines, he attended the state fair and was sitting on a fence, and in his words, saw the most beautiful Borinqui woman of his dreams. So he threw a few pieces of popcorn in her hair, and the rest is history. He married my great-grandmother, Thelma Figueroa, and they moved to Kailua in the early 50s because it was affordable and they could raise cows. Can you believe that in Kailua? They had 6 kids of their own, adopted 2 more, and fostered countless others. Papa was the patriarch of our ohana and would always say the prayer and speak at our family events and weddings. At weddings, Papa would always share his success to his over 60 years of marriage, and it was his 10 magic successful words. I am sorry, please forgive me, and I love you. Reflecting on these words, I think they are applicable to the work we do here. To always say sorry when we are wrong and not to let our pride get in the way, to ask for forgiveness and always remain humble, and to always conduct ourselves with aloha, love, to one another and treat each other with dignity and respect. I look forward to laughing with all of you and learning your stories too. Mahalo.
Thank you, Representative Bronco. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Aquino, Ms. Bellotti, Mr. Bronco, Mr. Cullen, Ms. DeCoit, Ms. Eli, Mr. Ganadin, Mr. Gates, Ms. Har,
Present.
Mr. Hashem, Mr. Hashimoto, Mr. Holt, Ms. Ichiyama, Mr. Iligan, Mr. Johansson, Ms. Capella, Ms. Kitagawa, Mr. Bertrand Kobayashi, Mr. Dale Kobayashi, Mr. Khan, Mr. Lopresti, Ms. Lowen, Ms. Luke, Ms. Martin, Mr. Matayoshi, Ms. Matsumoto, Mr. McDermott, Mr. McKelvey, Mr. Mizuno, Ms. Morikawa, Ms. Nakamura, Mr. Nakashima, Mr. Nishimoto, Mr. Ono, Ms. Okimoto, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Peruso, Mr. Quinlan, Mr. Sayama, Mr. Takeyama, Mr. Takumi, Mr. Tam, Mr. Tarnas, Mr. Todd, Mr. Tokioka, Mr. Ward, Ms. Wildberger, Mr. Woodson, Mr. Yamane, Mr. Yamashita, Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Mr. Speaker, all 51 members are present.
Item 2, reading of the Journal, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, may this matter be deferred.
So ordered. Item 3, Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the Governor?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
Item 4, Mr. Clerk, are there any Senate communications?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are in receipt of communications returning the noted House bills, all having passed third reading in the Senate.
For the motion to disagree, Representative Bellotti.
Mr. Speaker, I move to disagree to the amendments made by the Senate to the noted House bills.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. We're on item 5. Members, could you please note on page 6, SCR number 1795, Senate Bill number 1350, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1, will be deferred one legislative day. Okay, we're back on page 1 for the motion to suspend. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules of the House in order to consider certain Senate bills for third reading by consent calendar.
Representative Matsumoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Representative Bellotti.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1656 through 1668 as listed on pages 1 through 4, and that the accompanying Senate bills as amended pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion, beginning with SCR 1656? Representative Ward.
Speaker, with, with reservations, there seems to be too many unconstitutional accusations on this bill. For now, with reservations. Thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion? If not, 1657, 1658, 1659, 1660. Next page, 1661, 1662, 1663, 1664. Next page, 1665, 1666, 1667, 1668. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, all majority members vote aye.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measures before us, all minority members vote aye.
Are there any remote votes? If not, have all votes been cast? All right, said measures passed third reading. Representative Bellotti.
Mr. Speaker, with the exception of House Standing Committee Report number 1795 on page 6, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1790 through 1826 as listed on pages 5 through 12, and that the accompanying Senate bills pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All right, is there any discussion, beginning with SCR 1790 on page 6, page 5, 1791, 1792, 1793, 1794. Next page, 1796, 1797, 1798, 1799. Next page, 1800, 1801, 1802, 1803, 1804. Next page, 1805, 1806, 1807, 1808, 1809. Next page, 1810, 1811. Representative Okimoto.
Mr. Speaker, in support, brief comment, please.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I very much appreciate the intent of this bill and overall agree with its contents. But as it moves forward, I encourage the conference committee to take seriously the Department of Health's concerns regarding oversharing of case data and its unintended consequences. And may I also have permission to insert written comments into the journal?
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So further discussion on 1811, if not 1812, 1813, 1814. Next page, Representative Okimoto.
1814, please,
Please
Mr.
proceed.
Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, in support with reservations and brief comment as well.
Please proceed.
Thank you. While I understand the intent and purpose of why the bill seeks out preferential candidates with 10 years of experience at the DOE, at the end of the day, our students, our schools, and faculty deserve candidates that not just meet, but exceed the minimum qualifications of the position. Mr. Speaker, the priorities for the selection of the superintendent should be the overall qualification and ability to perform the job at a high level, I believe this measure would limit the candidate pool for the position of superintendent and exacerbate already difficult recruiting efforts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, is there further discussion? If not, next page, 1815, 1816, 1817, 1818. Next page, 1819, 1820, 1821, 1822. Next page, 1823, 1824, 1825, 1826. Representative Tokyoka.
With reservations?
So ordered. Representative Ward,
Speaker, a no vote in opposition. May I say a few words?
please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, ranked choice voting is back. I'm not sure why, but the reasons why it's probably back is because it failed, because it's unnecessary and confusing. What do you mean it's confusing? Well, the experience is, specifically in my office, I said, well, look, if my staff couldn't understand it, call the Office of Elections and figure out what it is, how you add up and do the mathematics one way or the other. Lo and behold, Mr. Speaker, the Office of Election didn't know how to explain it. They don't know what this Australian system is and what it calls for. So if, in effect, if we who are running the Office of Elections and those of us who have to get elected, if it's that confusing, the public is going to be really diminished by that. So I don't see what the value would be unless there's something that says there's going to be a real shift in the supermajority to be even bigger than the supermajority. I know Charles Deschutes probably would not have won under this particular bill. But the point is, it's not necessary. The system is not broken. And if we're going to confuse the people by making it where they got to know advanced geometry in order to figure out who's winning, because some people who win who don't even have a chance of winning, but by the mathematics, they somehow win. And this is why every year it comes up, it fails, and I hope this is the same rationale for this year, that we stick with what we got and make it better rather than shifting into a system that the Australians and the rest of the world can play around with. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, Representative Okimoto,
Mr. Speaker, in opposition, a brief comment.
please proceed.
Thank you. In races throughout the decades, Republican candidates can receive a small number of votes in the Republican primary ballot, but win by strong majorities in the general. This bill would prevent voters from making that choice in our November elections. As Professor James G. Kimball testified during a case challenging Maine's ranked choice voting law, quote, unlike ordinary elections and ordinary runoffs, voters are required to make predictions about who will be left standing following an initial tabulation of the votes. The predictive nature that comes from ranked choice voting obscures true debates, true issue-given dialogues between and among candidates, and eliminates genuine binary choices between two top-tier candidates. Ranked choice voting is not the solution to encourage more people to vote. It is overly complicated, confusing, and deprives voters of genuinely informed choices. For these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I am in opposition to this measure. Thank you.
Representative McDermott,
Speaker, no vote, and may I have comments in the journal?
so ordered. Representative Lepresti,
Strong support.
please proceed.
Thank you. I wanted to share an example of where this would have really helped. In my district where I live, in the city council race in 2010, this doesn't apply to city council, it applies to Congress, but the gentleman who won and became the city council person, I'm trying to look up the numbers, he won with a small, tiny majority of the vote. There were 14 candidates in that race. 14 candidates, and really one of those candidates was anti-rail. The other 13, we were all in favor of rail. It was the first election I ever ran, and I didn't know what I was doing. I think it came in 12th. But my colleague from Ewa Beach would have been the city councilman, a Republican, if I remember correctly, because of something like ranked choice voting. But instead what we had was a division of 14 interests, and only one of them, who was a fringe candidate, frankly, ended up becoming our city councilman, instead of somebody who actually more closely resembled the values, who embodied the values of our community. And I'm happy to say it was my Republican colleague from Ewa Beach would have been better from that job. Thank you.
Representative Kong,
With reservations.
so
Thank you,
ordered.
Speaker.
So further discussion? Representative Tam,
In support with a brief comment.
please proceed.
Two other states have implemented ranked choice voting, Maine and Alaska, and I don't think their voters are confused, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, is there further discussion on this or any other measure? If not, we'll take the vote. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, with the exception of on page 6, SCR 1795, all majority members vote aye.
Okay, Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measures before us, all minority members vote aye, with the exception of the following. On page 5, SCR 1793, SB 159, SD1, HD1, Representative McDermott votes no. On page 12, SCR 1825, SB 405, SD1, HD1, the minority caucus votes no.
Are there any remote votes? Members, have all votes been cast? Representative Matsumoto.
My mistake. Thank you. It's on SCR 1826, SB 560 that the minority caucus votes no.
Okay. So
And
noted.
not on 1825.
That's correct. SCR 1826, 4 no votes. So noted. Members, have all votes been cast? Okay, so if so, said measures pass third reading. Representative Bolatti.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Senate bills listed on page 13 pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion, members, beginning with SB number 244?
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Aquino.
request a ruling on a potential conflict.
Please state your potential conflict.
I work for a nonprofit that does food distributions.
Okay, the chair's ruling is no conflict through Sunny Dai.
Okay, thank you.
So further discussion. Okay, Senate Bill 329. Senate Bill 1327. Any discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, all majority members vote aye.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measures before us, all minority members vote aye.
Are there any remote votes? Have all votes been cast? If so, said measures pass third reading. All right, members, on item 8, are there any announcements? Okay, if not, we have a couple of motions. Representative Morikawa, motion to keep the journal open.
Mr. Speaker, I move to keep the journal open until 10 o'clock p.m. for the purpose of receiving standing committee reports and Senate bills transmitted thereby.
Representative Matsumoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand in recess until 10 o'clock a.m. Tuesday, April 13th.
Representative Matsumoto.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. The House stands in recess until 10 a.m. Tuesday.